Hello, friends, and welcome to the first episode of Conversations with Why Not Mindset. I'll be your host, Rustin Pangburn. Joining me as my co-host is John Reed. For this first debut episode, John and I had the privilege of sitting down with Jenni LaRue in British Columbia, Canada. Jenni is a wife, a mother, and a fierce advocate for prison reform. Now, what made this conversation truly profound was that we were able to be joined on speakerphone, of course, by her husband, Eli LaRue, who is currently serving a life sentence. Together, we explored two deeply powerful perspectives: what it means to fight for justice and change from the outside, and what it feels like to hold on to hope, dignity, and purpose from inside the prison walls. We discussed the barriers they face, the emotional weight carried on both sides, and the strength it takes to keep moving forward when the system feels overwhelming. Most importantly, we talked about belief in transformation, in humanity, and the possibility of real change. This conversation is raw, it's real, but it's necessary. It also sets the tone for what Conversations with Why Not Mindset is all about. It's about amplifying voices, building bridges, and redefining second chances. So I hope you enjoy episode 1.
They say your past defines you, but I learned it only defines you if you let it. We are worth more than our worst decisions, and I'm here to prove it. I came home with nothing but a bag and a dream, a heart full of pain but a vision to redeem. Gray sweatpants, white tee, but my soul was clean, 'cause freedom ain't the gate, it's the fight in between. They wrote me off, said he'll fall again, but they ain't seen a man reborn from within. Had to break old chains just to breathe again. Had to lose myself to find who I've been. Now I walk with purpose, no mask, no front. I ain't hiding from my past, I confront what it was. See, the system took time, but it couldn't take my heart. And that's what Why Not Mindset got its start.
So before we get started, thank you both for taking the time, and let's jump right into it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Jenni, I have heard a little bit about your story, but for the others who have not really heard and may not know what's your story, would you share just a little bit with us and introduce Eli into this, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it.
Sure, yes. So I'm married to Eli, of course. We're involved with the carceral system. He is serving a life sentence right now, and he is incarcerated in Mountain Institution in British Columbia. We have been going through a lot in our journey, a lot of, unfortunately, a negative experience. And because of that, we've had to use the legal system, such as the court system and Human Rights Commission, to help our family get out of a situation that we were put into, unfortunately, through my advocacy and, of course, for Norman and his advocacy for himself. And so this is my husband, Norman, on the phone. I have him set up on a tripod. He's calling. This is usually would be our phone time together. And he's agreed to participate and share this time with you guys.
Eli, if I may ask, I myself, when I was incarcerated, I did not have any loved ones out there. I wrote to my mother, but I didn't have any visits or really have too much phone time. For you, what has it been like navigating life with a wife on the outside while you're on the inside and struggling with the rigid environment that you're going through?
Well, to be honest with you, I know both sides of the coin. I know what it's like to do time with the only person that I had to call prior was my grandmother. was pretty much the one that kept me up to date on my family and what was going on and everything. And when my wife came into the picture, that was almost a sad experience in a way where I was just came along, and it made it easier for me at that time. And then when I started getting visits and navigating through the system, things changed in the way where my outlook, my perspective on things, started navigating the system in a more proactive manner. Things that were seemed normal and okay to me because of the 60 scoop in Canada and everything, and the Canadian foster system and group homes and everything, and even the youth justice centers, and attitudes and behaviors from their side seemed normal and okay to me. However, after I got married, and when I started talking to my wife about things, and because she would ask how it is in here for me because she cared and wanted to make sure that I was, for lack of a better term, getting the best care.
Of course.
I started to recognize the racism, the prejudice, and started to see a lot more of the mental abuse that started to speak out about it. That's when things took a real bad turn for the worse.
And you're speaking of of course the COs or correction officers, correct?
Yeah, I'm talking about corrections officers that they would get placed in the Indigenous healing units. They would have no real experience with Indigenous prisoners. They would go through, say, like a 6 weeks course where they go and talk to an Indigenous elder for an hour each class, pretty much. For the rest of the time, it's basically they're being explained on from other officers how to deal with Indigenous prisoners.
6 weeks doesn't seem like enough time to get to know what they need to know, to me.
Yeah, that's what we all say.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, if I may ask, on the same coin, if I may ask you the same question, what is it like navigating as a wife and a mother on the outside? Because I do know, because I've spoken with you before, that you're fighting barrier after barrier and trying to bust wall after wall. What is it like as on the other side of the wall? What's it like for you?
For me, I kind of went into the situation not knowing what the system was like. I really thought it was what my grandma always told me she believed it was, and she thought it was a hospital. She thought it was a place where people go to get better. And that's kind of where the community leads us to believe. It makes us feel like this is almost like more rehabilitation and correction. But really, when I started going through the situation with my husband, I started to notice that it was a lot darker than I had anticipated. To be accused as an innocent community member of being involved with institutional drug subculture, and then having my husband transferred from what was supposed to be an Indigenous healing unit to a maximum security where he almost lost his life, changed me on a cellular level. And I used to be a very shy, keep to myself kind of person, but I've always been a fighter. Even as a young kid in foster care myself, I had to survive. So I was already in that kind of fight, flight, or freeze mode, living out of that survival mode and instinct from a very young age. And this is just a whole nother level of that. But that's the only way I can explain it. As a community member, you really do start to become, without even realizing it, institutionalized through this process. Going into the principal entrance to enter a visit at one of these institutions, you're surrounded by people in uniforms. You're treated as though, you are a threat to the security of the institution as soon as you walk in those doors. And then your children have to experience the same. So Norman and I, we share a daughter, and this was actually not yesterday, but the day before. We went in for a visit, and we were standing in line, and my daughter was just complying so well to the orders that the guard was giving.
And how old is
And
your daughter?
she's 6 years old. Yeah, so she's just complying and she's just doing everything before she's even asked. She just does what she knows to do. And one of the elders standing beside us, an Indigenous elder, said, "Wow," she goes, "she's so institutionalized." She goes, "That's so sad." And I never thought about it. Sometimes it takes a remark or somebody to say something to get you to really start to fathom what you're going through. Like, they have me and my daughter institutionalized.
Of course, yeah, I say this when I speak in colleges that justice impact and lived experience doesn't just revolve around the person that's being incarcerated or getting ready to be released. It I've said this before, it's like throwing a rock into a pond, and that ripple effect touches everyone. And I remember when I was in prison, I wouldn't allow my mother or a family member to come visit because I didn't want them, one, to see me in the cage, want them to see me in my khakis, and I didn't want them to have. I didn't. My mother, in my eyes, did not deserve to take a long bus ride. She didn't deserve to see her son that way, didn't deserve to be treated like you're saying, like you saying. So I did not want that to happen. And it's you and your daughter. That's very brave. It is very brave. It is.
Mhm.
John, what's your take on all this, John, so far?
I'm brimming over here with questions. So, Eli, it might interest you to know that I've worked an awful lot in prisons, and what I've done mainly is to take poetry into prison as a way of combating loneliness and to give the guys some chance of hooking onto an interest that they would enjoy, and it would take their mind away from their incarceration and their problems. So um, I'm really hovering around loneliness here, and I'd like to ask you both separately. Maybe you first, Eli. How do you cope with the loneliness in prison? Because I would imagine that once you got married and your wife was coming in on a regular basis to see you, some of the other inmates might not take kindly to that if they didn't get the same advantage. So loneliness is one thing. How does it work out with all the guys that are living around you in the same place?
There's one thing about the Canadian prison system, and it might be the same for everywhere else in the world. Inside, you got two different types of guys. You got your old school convicts, and you got your inmates. Your inmates are the ones that complain about being disadvantaged, don't do anything for themselves. Basically, in the lack of a better term, the kind of snakes kind of guys. Kind of guys that you don't feel comfortable around. But the other kind of guys that I associate with where we support each other. Even if another guy doesn't have a family, he's still supported in the way where guys will go talk to him, hang out with them, have coffees, play card games. And even those guys that don't have families support the guys with families.
Brilliant.
Hey, how's your family doing? How's things going? Things like that. So for me, it's been fairly easy because a lot of my friends, they got wives and kids and everything. Sometimes when their people come in, our kids play together.
Same as it would be on the outside.
Yeah, I would like to hear the same question, if I might, from Jenny, and see what her take is on that side.
Me too.
Thank you. For me, it's I get to live in a world full of stigma around it. Being, the term thrown around called a prison wife is something I don't really like. I'm just a wife. We're just in a different circumstance. We're looked at as people that are not educated, like we've made a stupid decision in our life. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. A lot of the women that I've met who are married to people incarcerated, they're beautiful, smart women that some of them hold degrees, in different things. Sometimes people fall in love in that situation. I've come across people like that too. There was a nurse and she fell in love with a prisoner, and she's fighting for him the same way, but not as prevalent. To come out and do this type of work, to be able to support your loved one, number one, it takes something very, very scary, like that changes you. And number two, you are now in the spotlight, and it's not always the best place. Not everybody is clapping for us, right? In the situation, the community believes that the prison system is needed and that whatever happens there is deserved. And how do you change people's minds about
Wow.
that? So for me, it's definitely a very different level of lonely because I don't have too many people that I can sit down and talk to. My options are limited. For example, there are maybe a few women that I speak to, but they're also going through what I'm going through, so they can understand what it's like to be in my shoes. But I've been in situations too where I would be at the school park or playing, and I'm trying to get along with other people, and then they ask questions, right? They ask, "Where's your husband?" And I'm honest, and I'm not gonna say he's away in the army or something like crazy, but no, he's in prison. And usually after that, the friendships don't go very far. A lot of situations don't go very far. So it's a different level of lonely. It's a different level of, I guess you could say, struggling to fit in. But at the end of the day, I love my husband. Um, when we met, we have a history as well in foster care. And so there's a certain level that we can understand, and we can get along on those similarities and those shared experiences. So yeah, I would definitely say
You
it's
see?
lonely for sure. It's a different level. And then of course we have the children, and they do have impacts associated with
Yes,
this
of
as
course.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my world, Jenny, you are somebody extra special because you took on a man who was already incarcerated, and all credit to you. You fell in love and you followed your heart, and here you are now working through the system. And the day will come, I've no doubt, when Eli
Yeah.
comes home to you, and let's hope it's soon. But it may not be. You may have this for a while yet, and as you say, it impacts on your family. I think the responses you describe would be exactly the same in this country, in the UK, and I guess it's probably the same throughout the world. And even in my own family, when I got an interest in prisons some 7 or 8 years ago now, perhaps even 9 years, my own family thought I was bonkers. What do you want to go into prison for? They're all nasty people, aren't they? And of course, I knew very different to that. Once I started going in and talking to people and doing things with them, and just basic, simple things that on the outside would be nothing at all. Meet somebody in a queue in a shop, and I speak to them, and they just laugh. And we went to a concert in Birmingham on Saturday to a comedian, and the guy sat down next to me, and we immediately started chatting about how far we travelled. And I can imagine those conversations going on the world round. But if I had said to him, "Oh well, I've just been released from prison," actually, I would have got a completely different response. And it's a shame, and it's sad. And yeah, we see loneliness as a gateway condition that to those incarcerated can lead on to much worse, much worse. And so if you nip it in the bud, as it were, that's fine. But to you on the outside that's suffering the same problem, I wouldn't normally easily be able to get and meet you. And I would willingly provide you with everything that I would provide anybody in a prison, um, because I think the need is very similar. Uh, but it's not easy, and people do discriminate against you, and I think that's a shame.
Eli, if I may ask, Jennifer is not just she's not just speaking up; she's standing up, and she's standing up tall for you, and the advocacy for the justice system, and she's facing so many barriers. let me ask you. I'm not. I only did 60 months at a federal prison, so I definitely do not know what you're going through as facing life. But can you tell me some of the obstacles that you're facing in your struggles with the justice system and what you're going through? Maybe some mentally and some physically, if I may ask.
A good question.
If I ask a
Well,
question, if I ask a question that you don't want to answer, I understand if you say I don't want to talk about that. That's completely fine.
no. This is something that's easy for me to talk about. It's just tough on me emotionally. Be able to repay. But you can be damn sure I'll do my best to try for the rest of my life, however long that may be. Now, in saying that, it is tough because I want to be able to support my wife in every way possible as a husband should. It is tough. We go through our struggles, with phone calls and visits and everything. And, we're not some special couple or anything. We're just a regular couple,
Of
and
course.
we do our best for our family and we do our best for each other. And like you were just hearing my wife talk about, the stigma that she goes through out there from other community members and, her being lonely because she can only see me a few times a week. And then every other 6 to 8 weeks, she can come spend a weekend with me, and it's tough on the both of us. And for me, it's tough in the way that knowing that my wife struggles and that she's going through a lot and there's only so much I can do. And the fact that I want to do more and I try to do more, and it's actually CSC that prevents me.
Yes, I completely understand that.
Correctional services, but yeah.
Those the walls aren't just physical walls. I I speak from my experience reaching back. They're not just physical walls, physical fences, physical barriers. They're mental. They're mental barriers, and
Yeah.
it really it really is tough. I want to ask this next question to Jenni. I'm going to be going in speaking with some correction students, and I want to ask you've been raising your voice for change. You've been standing up. You've been speaking out. Um, what what message would you want policymakers, the next generation, the future change makers? What would you like for them to hear? The next leaders that many people are speaking to in universities. What would you like to say to them?
I want to say that punishment has never changed anybody. Punishment is one of the reasons why a lot of people do crime in the first place. They've been punished in different situations in their lives. And it's not stopping anything from reoccurring, like the recidivism. It's not helping change and restore who a person is. So focusing more on rehabilitation is key. We've seen it happen. Like I think last time you and I spoke, we talked about how Northern European countries, a couple of them have adopted a rehabilitation model that has really seen a lot of change. Those were countries that used to practice the same as every other country in the world with the punishment. They wanted to take a better approach, and it worked. So how about we study that more? In my communities, we're Indigenous, and we do have some human rights around that. So Canada has adopted the United Declaration of Rights for Indigenous people in this country, and it's very slow to move. But at the same time, I was at a conference not too long ago about law and how are the Indigenous people going to take jurisdiction over that area. And I only took part in one, but there was a lot of really good discussions happening there. So I think that that is one way that we could begin the process, at least for Indigenous people in Canada. But I would like to see that for the system as a whole. right? I would like to see we are a lot safer no matter how bad a crime is. The person who did it is going to be less dangerous to the community if they actually start getting the support they need while they're in those facilities. And then that way, when they're released, they're going to be a little more of a restored, caring individual. Their mental health needs are going to be cared for. And we're going to have a lot more, I guess we can say a lot less hurt and injured people. And unfortunately, around the world, when we're speaking of gender-based violence, it's mostly women and children. So do we, sorry, do we want to, as we speak about women and children, but yes, these are the ones that we want to protect, right? Not to say anyone else isn't any better, but these are our vulnerable people in our communities. And how much more safe would our communities be if we're addressing this from a holistic approach?
Yeah.
So that way we don't have to worry about monsters hiding in the dark, looking at women and children, or what may have. I forget the terminology there, but it's just that's not what they are. They're people. And they do have the ability to change if given the right, I guess you could say, treatment, rehabilitation.
Could I comment here though, Jenny? And I think it's a worldwide problem that the industry of incarcerating people is run by profit-making businesses to a large extent, who have no interest whatsoever in the flow of people coming in, drying up, because their business would fail. And I speak and follow a guy called Brian Cohen, who is interested in doing a social enterprise in America, a not-for-profit prison. And only today I was reading about how he toured 3 specific areas in the world. I can only remember one, which is South Korea, where they have prisons actually run by non-profits, and any profit that is made is plowed back into the prison for the betterment of the people living there. And so maybe the basic problem is the simple fact that prisons are being run for profit. A lot of English prisons are run by the government, but again, the private services that go in there, are in for making money. So maybe that's where we're going wrong in the first place. And Eli, going back to you, is your prison run by the government or by a private company?
Even when it's run by the government, it's still for money.
Okay.
It really is.
I rest my case, my lad.
Because of the Corcan services.
Yeah.
We pretty much make every institution in Canada has what's called Corcan services. Basically, they make blankets, mattresses, sheets, everything.
And they control it. And they control
For
the market.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the same. When I speak with the students, I mention that what we need to do is start investing in people before their release. A year, 2 years before they get out, instead of just letting them get out and having society just expect them to flip a switch and change, because it's just not like that. That just doesn't happen. When you go into incarceration, the first thing you must do is desensitize your mind for what you're getting, for the rigid, controlled, and most often violent system you're getting ready to go into, whether it may be 5, 10, 15 years. And I tell them, I'm just one story, but what are you going to do when you're faced with the next person who has a story? Are you going to build the bridges, or are you going to continue building those barriers? And they ask me a lot of questions. So let me ask you, Eli, the same question that I asked Jenny. What message would you want? What message would you want the future policymakers and the future correction officers and judges and lawyers? What would you like for the younger generation to hear that's coming up next?
To give a two-part answer to that. One, there was a law that was passed down when it began to happen inside incarcerated prisons. One of that was the judges was noted to say only thing that an incarcerated individual has lost from society is their right to freedom. Every other right that is still obtained by society and within the institutional guidelines, that person shall still be afforded. So, in remembering that, also remember that the people that are incarcerated, we are human. We made a mistake. Everybody on earth, in one way or another, can be put in some situation that could end them up in a place like this. And in thinking that, also remember, not everybody in these places are there for life and are there for the worst of offenses. There are those that are there that do want to change, that do want to do the work. So do not cast them out like the rest of society does, and that the rest of society is led to believe how people are inside. Maybe look at them like you would look at the animals at a kennel. Think to yourself, how do you think those animals would be if every day they get abused in one way or for months, days, weeks, years on end, and then just get kicked out to society, into a society that is taught to forget about these people?
No longer see you as a person.
Not that many.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get passionate. I feel you, Eli. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's just think how you would be if you would be treated like that every day and then just get let out and be forgotten. What is one to do? That is why there is such a high recidivism rate. Is because the people in charge in the government let certain people control the correctional services, but they forgot one thing: correcting.
I have said often before that the justice system can only go so far. Real transformation happens with community. It happens with lived experience. It happens when people believe that the people getting out are capable of change. The vast majority of people being released do not want to go back. I know that, but the past will welcome you back with open arms. I say that quite often. The re-entry isn't just a moment. I say it's a mindset. It's first you have to believe you are worth more than your past.
Absolutely.
And thank you for speaking out. And I did not have or could not imagine having a life sentence. So I just have to. Would it be okay at the end of all this? Would it be okay if I gave Jenni my Why Not Mindset PO box, and maybe me and you could have a couple letters, Eli?
Yeah, not a problem.
That would be great. I would really appreciate to have correspondence with you, if that would be okay. I would really like to have correspondence. I can leave the contact info with Jenni, and she can relay that to you. And every letter you write, you will get one back.
Just need to make you aware of something. That BSC has been sitting with my mail for quite a long time. Legal mail that she hasn't gotten for just about a year now. And I am trying something. I've been working on something. Haven't really been, because I want to surprise her with.
It's okay. You don't have to
nice letter
say
and a
anything.
picture that I draw.
No.
Eli, it may comfort you to know that exactly the same problem exists in the UK, and I believe it's down to the prison officers themselves. So a lot of the work I've done is in within the sex offenders prisons, and a lot of the prison officers find the residents, as I call them, abhorrent, because they know what they've done. I never ask what they've done. I couldn't care less what they've done. And so I believe that when I write an ordinary letter into a prison, it is photocopied, and then the photocopy goes to the resident in case the original contains any drugs within the paper. I understand that, but it relies on the fact that somebody then photocopies it and hand delivers it to the prisoner. And likewise, I can email a prisoner, and I have two that I email every Sunday. But again, it's printed out, it's read by a prison officer, and it's then delivered by hand to the prisoner in his cell. And it relies on the prison officer physically doing it. And they don't all do it. They don't. So, and quite how you prove that you haven't received something that you should have received I've no idea. Even a book. I've got a book out which I will send to you willingly. I'll certainly send one to you, Jenny, that you can send in. But when I sent one into my friend's new prison, it took them about 3 weeks to move the book from the reception area, to read it, to make sure it didn't contravene any rules, and then deliver it to my man, who actually is chapter 1 in the book. He's got a really interesting story. And so, so I think the problem you allude to is something that's general throughout the world, and certainly in the UK.
Can I speak to that as well, John?
Please.
Okay. Yes. Ours has to do with, I guess you could say, retaliation for our speaking up and continuing to do what we're doing right now. So it's a form of retaliation. And I have taken action on this. I have sent multiple letters to them complaining about this. I've even opened up a complaint because in the community, for example, if somebody were tampering with my mail, that's a federal offense in Canada. And you can report that. So I did put in a complaint with the Canada Post out here.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, and I put in my own multi-level grievance within the service of Correctional Services Canada that has gone all the way to Ottawa. And I am staying on top of it. Whenever I get the chance to update on any circumstance that we're going through, I make sure that that's put in there. Because I feel like it's concerning. If something ever happened to him and he were transferred in an emergency transfer, and we've been through that before, how is he going to communicate that? How is he going to tell me where he is? It's almost intentional, and it honestly, it makes me feel a level of anxiety that the same thing that happened to us before is going to happen again. This time, Correctional Services is going to be more, I guess you could say, they're going to make it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Those are just my anxieties. I don't want those things
do you have the ability to email into Eli?
No, we don't have that. In some states they have that, but not here. They don't get internet.
That's a shame.
Like they do.
We're not allowed access to the internet whatsoever.
What a shame.
That really is
as well, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. We have a high level of institutional deaths in
Let me
custody.
say, Eli, that's ridiculous, because if you were released tomorrow, you would be released into a world that relies on the internet. We've got Elon Musk putting thousands of Starlink satellites up just for that internet. So you would be coming into a world that doesn't exist in your world today. And you need to be able to deal with it. Now, you've got a wife that will help you, but many men won't have that situation.
He actually got to touch a phone for the first time. We had a hearing for a habeas corpus judicial review.
Okay.
I wrote that as well. We had to go into court and kind of look at the old judicial review. The old habeas corpus. And he was there, and I was there, and we were self-represented. And I had information on my phone, and the judge gave him permission to touch it and to go through it to find that information. So he actually got to sit there, and it was interesting to see him touching a phone, an iPhone.
I had no idea what to do with that
thing. Yeah, I laugh, Eli. I laugh because when I was first incarcerated, the flip phone was just barely coming out. It was like the latest and greatest thing when I first went in. And then I watched and heard about the smartphone, which I didn't understand. And then when I get out, flip phones were like a brick phone. And I didn't know what a smartphone. I didn't know what internet. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eli.
No, I'm just agreeing with you because I went through the exact same thing before.
How long? If I might ask, how long have you been away for now?
The last phone, my flip phone that do you remember this name brand or anything?
My last phone was a Nokia.
That it was kind of like a spoof on the.
Okay.
On that flip thing. So yeah. I had one of those the last time when part of this one, but but last time. So I had one of those. Then when I got out, it's like you just start hearing about these smartphones and everything. And I get out, and my cousin comes to the halfway house where I was staying, and dropped me off a bunch of clothes and everything, and brought me a present, which was a smartphone. I'm looking at this thing like, how do I use this? What is this? That's just a phone, but the thing's too small.
Yeah.
So you
This
had
is not
another
a
question.
laughing matter, though, is it? It's not a laughing matter, and the same applies to money, doesn't it? When you've lived in
I
a
only
prison,
laugh. I only laugh because I definitely can relate, as I was there. I understand what it was like getting out, and just the world just seemed like it just blew past me, and I was only gone for 60 months, for 5 years. I it's just wild, and there was no internet. There was letters. I relied on what was written down and given to me. That was my way of keeping up with the world. And when you're in there, sometimes it feels like the world just pushed pause for you, but not for everyone else. And then you do get released, and you're expected to just fit right back into society like it's a glove, and it doesn't work that way. We 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 are getting close to 45 minutes. Is that what you said, Jen? That you only have just I really don't want to. I don't
Yeah.
The
want
phone
to
should
cut
be
you.
shutting soon, but you did have
Okay.
a question that you were going to ask Norman, and I thought that was a good question about how long he's been in and the
Yeah.
circumstance around that.
Yes, Norman. Yeah. Eli. How long have you been inside now? And if you don't mind, what are the circumstances before we lose you?
I've been incarcerated for 15 years now. Yeah, over 15 years, serving a life 25 sentence for first degree murder, for which I was wrongfully convicted, and I am currently still fighting within the Canadian judicial system. And also in Canada, they had this old law that was called a faint hope clause, which I am currently going up for right now, which is a judicial review for after serving 15 years. I can apply to the court to have some time reduced off of the 25 years. So I'm doing that right now, as well as also working with the UBC Innocence Project in regards to ministerial review.
fantastic,
Yeah, it's something
unbelievable.
else.
It's not unbelievable. That's the sadness of it, isn't it?
Really is, really is. Well, in case we do get cut off, I first want to say we can continue talking, but if we get cut off, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for giving us your. I know that phone time is very precious. I used to have phone time, and it meant a lot to me. So I appreciate you giving your phone time, sharing your phone time with Why Not Mindset and with John and I. I really do appreciate that.
Can I interject as well? This, for me, Eli, has been an absolutely marvelous experience. It's something I've never done before, and I would be very keen to do it again. I would be very keen to write to you. I'd be very keen to send my book over. I'd be very keen to do anything that's going to help you. And this recording that Rustin is making will fall on some ears of people that would be really, what's the correct word to use, really interested in the story.
Impactful.
That's the word, Rusty. So I think we maybe give it a month and then do a round two for here, because this is something I would like to take up in the long term and help as much as I possibly can. And yourself included, Jenny. This, what you're going through, is not right.
we will we will be having a live we will be having a conference in the first week of April. And Jenny, you are I would be honored to have you at the conference, either on screen. I'm sure not there in person, but I would definitely be honored to have you share your story, share your experience at the conference, which is going to be called the Bridges Not Barriers Collaboration Conference. And that's going to be that. The last one we had was live streamed in many countries. Finally, if I may ask Eli and then Jennifer this question, if there is someone out there listening that needs to hear that needs to hear the right words, that needs to hear something, maybe a family member, another advocate, someone who's still inside, what words of belief, what words of encouragement would you want to leave with them before we end this conversation?
Spero. These are the words that I've lived by ever since I started doing time. They're Latin, and it means, while I breathe,
That's
never
powerful.
give up hope, no matter how down you may seem, no matter how it feels like there's never going to be any help or light at the end of the tunnel. As long as you breathe, you'll always have that hope in you.
Yeah.
That's why I call my organization the Why Not Mindset, is because when I was released, I stepped out into a world that no longer saw me as a person. It only saw me as the felon across my chest, the crime, federal inmate number 187977045. That's who I was, and I had to reclaim my name. But with Why Not Mindset, I had to learn that the world is going to tap you on the shoulder and tell you that you're broken, tell you that you're not, that you can't make it, and that there's no way forward. And I had to dig in and dig deep, and I had to tell the world back, why not? Why not believe that I can do better, that I deserve a second chance? Why not keep pushing forward? And it was those two questions, Eli, why not, that changed everything for me. I didn't have money. I didn't have clothes. I was in a new town with no friends, no connections. But what I had was that why not mindset. And with that mindset is why I created the Why Not Mindset program. So I believe we are coming up. I don't want to take away any of your time, but I would. Is there anything, Jenni, you would like to say in this with the same question?
Sure. A lot of programs out there. We do have a lot of good ones in Canada. Some things coming up as well that I'm aware of. And I think that things can change and they will change, and that it has to be a collaborative effort. People coming together to share their experiences, like yourself, Rustin, and John, and your incredible stories, an incredible example of how prisoners aren't just that label. They're people, and they can come out in the community and they can contribute. I think that's a big, powerful message that people need to hear. The spirit that my husband has while incarcerated, a lot of incarcerated people have that same spirit. Despite being broken down, despite being separated from the community and family. There are even people, I was just listening to a podcast today, people that are on death row that still have positive attitudes and feelings and religious beliefs and spiritual, they're people. And I think once we realize that we are that collective, that we are people, we're on that shared space and energy, I think that's what's going to really open up people's minds about this. My husband was saying earlier that, just because they're incarcerated, they still have rights as human beings. And I think the more that
Absolutely.
we share that, the more it will help strengthen all of these programs, these up and coming programs.
Brilliant.
That brilliant. I think that was a wonderful end. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much, Eli, for giving us your time. Jennifer, thank you so much for standing up, speaking out, standing tall, and do not give up. And I would like to say I don't very much agree with Canada right now, and because of this conversation that it has, I'll leave it at that. But thank you so much for your time. And I would love to have the opportunity to have a part 2 and a part 12 and maybe even a part 20. And I look forward to the day, Eli, where I can see your face and have you on live, if you would give me that honor. Thank you so much all for joining, and we will definitely have to catch up and continue this conversation with Why Not Mindset.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.